Hello everyone, welcome to the Evangelist Nick Garrett channel. The social media age. Have you noticed how on every holiday a picture of the individual who the holiday is about is posted as a meme? But somehow, every side, liberal, conservative, libertarian, they all have taken a few words of the celebrated hero out of context, leaving us all to wonder, what did this special icon of American heritage really believe? Well, today we will get to the bottom of one such American icon. If this goes well and our subscribers enjoy it, we will do one on each of the founders. In recent years, we hear about the Founding Fathers' intentions for us to have been a solely Christian nation. But is that really true? Today we look at Thomas Jefferson to find out. Contrary to popular belief, there was not one singular popular belief among the Founding Fathers. Attitudes about religion were as different as political leanings. By the time he was an old man, Jefferson would tear up as he sang along with familiar church hymns. This is quite the contrast than the mental images offered by his political foes during his first presidential campaign against John Adams, where it was said if Jefferson won, he would confiscate Bibles, turn all places of worship into whorehouses. Unlikely. While Thomas Jefferson was one of 10 children, his mother always found the time to teach him some prayers. Later in life, he recalled his childhood ability to recite the Lord's Prayer. Most scholars observe that regardless of personal beliefs, he was brought up in the rituals and customs of the Anglican Church, at least as it existed in colonial Virginia, not near as high Anglican as it was in England. Jefferson had the mind of a skeptic from his youth, which really exploded when he began attending William and Mary College. He found several professors that influenced him greatly, particularly George Wythe and William Small. He was impressed by their intellect. Even with the influence of his new teachers and the Christian morality of his childhood, he was not impressed by Williamsburg, the home of his school. He saw it as a den of drunkards, gamblers, and sexual libertines. He called it Devilsburg. That said, it was not Bible lessons that caused Jefferson to adhere to his moral code. He attributed his well-rounded behavior to the teaching of Professor Small and the Scottish Enlightenment. The Scottish Enlightenment was largely intellectual, modeled after the French version. No surprise, individual rights, the rule of reason, human capacity for self-improvement, and self-government were some of the main tenets. All of these experiences had the cumulative effect during his early years through late teens in developing great skepticism in Jefferson. That skepticism caused him to question not only political systems but religious ones as well. That being said, and common to popular belief, there was no evidence that Jefferson became an atheist. No one has ever found logical proof for atheism. Yet at points he probably did become an agnostic. Through each phase of his life, though, as he developed his worldview, he remained devoted to what he called Christian ethics. These ethics went hand in hand with deism, a common belief system among early founders. The existence of creation presupposed a creator, for example. A creator was just and likely benevolent. On the other hand, there was a fairly consistent belief that mystical revelations would not provide answers to questions. As a legislator, Jefferson separated his personal belief from what he believed was necessary and wholesome for public good. For example, as revolution neared, he supported a call to a day of prayer. As Jefferson penned the Declaration of Independence, he references the laws of nature and of nature's God. More than out of some devotion to Christianity, it was likely Jefferson's affinity for deism and that of his colleagues that would have compelled such terms. Other common terms frequently used, such as providence, the creator, the author of our being. After writing the Declaration in 1776, Jefferson penned the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom in 1777. It was the first of its kind in the history of the world by noting that there was no religious view whose expression should in any way, quote, diminish, enlarge, or affect the civil capabilities of the speaker or writer, end quote. Inspiring Jefferson's ideas were that clergy held no special holy place above that of any other people. All were, quote, but fallible and uninspired. Jefferson's passionate concerns for religious freedom are fairly plain to see, yet he believed his personal religious convictions had no place in acts of legislature. That made it difficult to pin him down as to what he really believed. In the particularly contentious election of 1801 against his longtime friend turned rival John Adams, he refused to answer charges that he was an atheist. But in his first inaugural address after defeating Adams, he said that the American people were, quote, enlightened by a benign religion, professed, indeed, and practiced in various forms. After winning a second term as president, he elaborated during his inaugural, I shall need, too, favor of the being in whose hands we are, who led our forefathers, as Israel of old, from their native land and planted them in a country flowing with all the necessities and comforts of life. People's certainty about President Jefferson's religion were once again confused when he refused to proclaim days of prayer or religious thanksgiving, which he said would violate the separation of church and state. Jefferson's attitude in such questions as president had become much different than those same ones during his time as a legislator. It is really in Jefferson's private writings where one gets the clearest picture of his religious views. To his former political ally and foe, he wrote, July 15, 1814, quote, the doctrines that flowed from the lips of Jesus himself are within the comprehension of a child, but thousands of volumes have not yet explained the Platonisms engrafted on them. And this is for obvious reasons, that nonsense can never be explained. While Plato was an outstanding mind in human history, Jefferson blamed him for introducing needless mystification in philosophy and theology. Jesus' thoughts were a pure spring, but writers like St. Paul muddied them with Platonism. Jefferson rejected the Trinitarian concept of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. This was so plain to him that he distrusted priests who upheld such claims as enemies of individual freedom. He accused them of using superstition as a form of tyranny. He had witnessed clergy exercise undue power with agents of the state and believed they should be automatically barred from public office. It would be a mistake, however, to view all of Jefferson's religious beliefs in terms of hostilities. His biographer David Dreisbach notes that Jefferson frequently attended religious services in the nation's capital. He also left writings that reveal the positive elements of his faith. Two of his books, The Philosophy of Jesus and The Life and Morals of Jesus. One was written during his younger years and one as an older man. They somewhat illustrate the growth of his personal faith over life. He largely viewed Jesus' teachings as a system of ethics, the highest system available to humanity. He called them the most pure, benevolent, and sublime which have ever been preached to men. This became the subject of many later letters between Jefferson and Adams. In one letter, Jefferson revealed, "Atheists composed numerous schools in the Catholic countries, while the infidelity of Protestants took generally the form of theism." As Jefferson became an old man, the deity was no longer the embodiment of pure justice, but rather the spirit of love. Still, he continued to criticize priest-ridden societies and noted that freedom never survived in such a society. Ironically, some of his best friends were clergy: Joseph Priestley and the Baptist minister, Mr. Hyder. In his final years, the church services Jefferson attended most often were those of Hyder. Even with the peace he made with his personal desire for spiritual food, he remained distrustful of established churches. Thomas Jefferson was largely free of denominational prejudices. Historians debate to what extent he was Episcopalian. Some records note he may have served on an Episcopal or Anglican vestry, but all that could mean is that he was engaging in the introductory maneuvers of entry-level politics during his lifetime. He was christened as an Anglican, though, too, a choice no doubt made by parents. He was married Anglican and had Episcopalian Anglican funeral rites. If one is self-honest, many of us are brought up in the rites of parents that mean little to us. One unchanging feeling was Jefferson's hatred of the Catholic Church. He detested their political activities and desired no members of his family to become members. Yet the diversity of sects sharing space in Charlottesville near his home was a great deal of pride for him. Quakers, Episcopalians, Presbyterians, Methodists, and Baptists. He even spoke well of the Jews living in and around the town. In religious discussions with friends, he often held up the truth of the Gospels over those of the epistles. He was not a literalist. He did not believe man wrote the Bible under God's inspiration, but did believe that reporting about Jesus was generally true. If there was confusion about texts, he did not blame Jesus and his simple fishermen, but the Platonists, sophists, and those who studied the Hebrew and Greek centuries after the fact with no frame of reference. In that way, Plato was the great distorter of Western philosophy. So what did Jefferson think about religion? Was Jefferson a Christian? Alfred J. Mapp, author of Faiths of Our Founders, notes a profound lesson that we in our modern age of social media could use. Is it really possible that we can make a meme with a character who agrees with literally everything any of us believe? Of course not. Same with Jefferson. Was he a Christian? Well, at what age? At what time in his life? Who was his audience at a given time? Anyway, thank you for listening, and I look forward to talking to you next time.